And so when they come in and we're just all like, hey, welcome in, like we're super happy to see them. We're really excited that they are even considering the prospect of like joining our PHARMaly. I think that kind of like throws them off in a good way. They're like, oh wow, like this is awesome. And we give them all these resources like, hey, like we have, this app, and we have, these like vaccines that we offer, and we go on and on and on. And they're like, yeah, like I'm gonna transfer here. I'm gonna transfer my whole family here. And I think that's great. And then when they do actually get their stuff to us, it's a great opportunity for us to kind of look at, what medical conditions they have, where we can help, where we can offer over-the-counter medications or supplements or all of the things.
Welcome to the Pharmacy Quality Solutions Quality Corner Show. Buckle up and put your thinking cap on. The Quality Corner Show starts now.
Hello, Quality Corner Show listeners. Welcome to the PQS podcast, where we focus on medication use, quality improvement, and how we can utilize pharmacists to improve patient health outcomes. I'm your host, Nick Dorich. Our guest for today's episode, whether you're listening on the podcast feed or if you're watching on YouTube, our guest for today is Kennedy Erickson, and she is a pharmacist at Chehalis Pharmacy in Chehalis, Washington. She's a 2023 pharmacy school graduate. Kennedy, welcome to the show, and how are you doing today?
Hi, Nick. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing really well today. It's very sunny outside, which is, common in Washington, but in the summertime, but not usual. So it's exciting. It's a great day, and I'm excited to be here. How are you?
I'm fantastic, thank you. Folks watching can see that I've got sunshine here for myself in the other Washington, D.C. here. So both coming from Washington, but very different places here altogether. Kenny, we're going to talk about, and our topic for today is talking about really setting up and starting a new pharmacy services, and becoming ingrained in your local community. As a brief teaser, you work at a pharmacy that is recently new to its community, and you've really had to establish the patient care service. Well, you and the rest of the pharmacy staff, that is, establish yourselves in that community, and be known to the patients in your community. But we're going to talk about that. But before we do, let's get to know a little bit about you. So, where do you come from? What's your background in pharmacy? And then, what can you tell us about your pharmacy?
Yeah, of course. So I started working in pharmacy in 2018 as a pharmacy assistant. I started at an independent long-term care pharmacy, and I just absolutely loved it. I really looked up to the pharmacists. They really encouraged me to keep going in pharmacy, and told me when I moved back home, because I started when I was an undergrad at that pharmacy. When I moved back home, to try community pharmacy, because I am very much a people person. So I applied for a technician in training program at a chain community pharmacy, and I got it. And I really, really liked it. And the pharmacist there, who is still one of my really great mentors today, encouraged me to apply for pharmacy school. So I put my name in the hat, and I ended up over in Spokane at Washington State University, where I completed my pharmacy degree in 2023. While I was in school, I had the opportunity to work at some chain community pharmacies as an intern. But then when COVID hit, I got really overwhelmed with school and kind of balancing the increased workload and everything. So I put my name in the hat for a smaller independent community pharmacy, and I was just absolutely blown away at the difference that you see when you move over to an independent. It's just a lot more patient focused. You're able to be a lot more innovative with the services that you offer. And I just knew that that was my calling in pharmacy. And I'm really blessed that I ended up at one as a pharmacist today. Just celebrated that year milestone in June. So yeah, I'm really thankful.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's such a great feeling. I feel like for many of us, we have that moment in our career where it's the aha moment, where it's I know what I want to do, and the people that helped get you there, or that first mentor that helped get you that experience. So, Kenny, we're going to be talking today. I already mentioned this at the start. We're going to be talking about how a pharmacy grows, how pharmacy expands, and really becoming a community health center in a way. We don't often think about that, right? And community pharmacy can have somewhat of a reputation where, hey, it's the place where people, the public, they go to pick up their medications. But you and I and our listeners all know that a community pharmacy is so much more than that. And we're often the most trusted, most accessible, and healthcare provider. But we're also the place where patients can increasingly go and receive various healthcare services, especially in a state like Washington, where you're located. But we're going to go through that for today. So let's jump into our questions. Let's get started. And really, the first question that I want to ask is, for your pharmacy, because this is the location that you're working at. It's an independent pharmacy. It's also a relatively new community pharmacy in its town. So, from that standpoint, how does a community pharmacy, how does it become, ingrained with your local community? How do you go about connecting with these new patients? And, how are you building really that kind of experience for the patients in your community?
Yeah. What I love most about community pharmacy is actually, right there in its name. It's the community. And that is kind of how we paved the way to kind of making those connections with new patients, but also more established patients. We have another pharmacy that is in a nearby town that we kind of used to market the opening of our new location. So we had some patients who transferred in from that pharmacy, but then also they go and tell their teachers and their parents, their grandparents, their brothers-in-law, everyone in their families, their friends, that they have this new pharmacy that, is a lot closer to their house, and it's just very exciting for them to have that convenience. So word of mouth plays a really big role in us getting new patients in every single day. And we just try to continue, providing great service so that people keep coming to the pharmacy and keep inviting their friends and family to join them.
Yeah, it's actually, I think, a huge part of being a pharmacist is being, we'll call it being somewhat of a cheerleader, for the patient, but for their family, for their friends, and letting them know. We learn all this information in pharmacy school or through even certifications or other aspects of our professional development. But if we don't go and tell the patients that they can get this service at a community pharmacy, how are they supposed to know? So, that is an area where pharmacists, we may not think of ourselves in that way, or that, hey, this may come off as a little salesy, but it is definitely an aspect where, hey, if we're not telling the pharmacist that we can do service XYZ, they're not going to know. Kennedy, speaking of that, let's talk about, what does make community pharmacy unique. And you talked about this yourself in your introduction and with your background, that you really fell in love with community pharmacy because of what you're able to do and working with, we're working with the patients. Washington State, we've talked about Washington State on prior podcasts, where Washington State is one of the most extensive or expansive when it comes to services that you can provide in a pharmacy. Is there anything, that is unique? And actually for you in Washington State, things may be standard operating procedure, and maybe that have been that way for a long time. But are there any services that you're providing that are particularly noteworthy outside of the typical medication dispensing?
Yeah. So with every medication that we dispense, when I'm verifying it, I also like to go through their profile and kind of look at their adherence and offer, medication reconciliation if that is appropriate for them. I also screen them for vaccines and look to see if they are due for anything. And that is a point of sale note that I make for those patients. And I like to go talk to them personally about why that would be beneficial. And I've actually used a lot of the resources that have been provided by like CDC, APHA on, vaccine hesitancy too. That's, a service that I don't think we think about a lot, but really like getting down and educating patients on what they can get at our pharmacy. It's not just vaccines, but we do like other injectables, long acting antipsychotic injectables. If patients have hesitancy with like their B12 injections or testosterone, we also offer that. So it's just kind of seeing where there's a gap or maybe a hesitancy from the patients, and that's really like getting to know them at that point of sale. And that's what I love about community pharmacy, is just really getting to talk to our patients and get to know them and educate them when I can and learn about them more as people.
That's a great call. And so I want to we'll talk a little bit on immunization just because this part I'd be interested from your perspective. Recently was at a summit and heard from Dr. Melissa McGivney, and one thing that she was talking about was from the University of Pittsburgh and some of their research and some of their CPSN network, some of their work. They have often found that the first time they offer a new service to a patient, the patient is often rejecting it the first time because they don't expect it, or hey, they're coming into the pharmacy to grunt, come and grab something, and oh, I need to schedule this. Do you find a similar experience? Is this something where there's some aspect of resiliency where hey, we have to keep up the messaging or providing them, like, do you train, and you're one of the staff pharmacists at the pharmacy, but do you find that same experience between yourself, between the other pharmacists, and even the technicians that are at the pharmacy?
I do find that you do have to kind of repeat the message a couple times. I just think that people get caught off guard. If you go up to them when they're at the drive-through and you're like, "Hey, you're due for this immunization. We can do this for you right now," which is what I like to say to people because I just want to get them in and I want to get them done. But that can kind of throw them off sometimes, and they'll be like, "Oh no, I don't want to do that. I feel kind of hesitant about that," and they'll kind of go into the reasons why, or they won't. And that's where you have an opportunity as a pharmacist to ask those probing questions. Well, why is it that you don't want XYZ? And that's, I think, where we have a really important and critical role to play in getting people to take these services, whether it be vaccines or other things.
Yeah, certainly that's an important aspect here. And that's another item that we learn in pharmacy school, right? It's going through a soap note. It's talking about motivational interviewing so that, hey, yeah, yes, the patient has the experience, but as you're having that conversation with them, patient to healthcare provider, we may not be providers under CMS policy, but we are healthcare providers, right? Having that conversation, helping the patient learn and understand and making an informed decision, it's not going to work necessarily 100% the first time every time, but with these in conversations we can show that yes we are, and if the patient is trusting us in these relationships, that can often lead the patient to uh, creating changes to their own healthcare approach. Now, Kennedy, I do want to talk about, for this pharmacy, Chehalis Pharmacy, this is a new pharmacy location and a kind of a different location. But it is, as you said, it is a second location or kind of a sister location, but it is nonetheless a new pharmacy. So, what has been your experience or the pharmacy's experience, specifically as operating as a new community pharmacy? When patients are coming in for the first time to a new community pharmacy, why are they coming? What are they expecting? What has that experience been like for you and the rest of the pharmacy staff?
It has been a clean slate for everybody. They come in and usually they are frustrated because, something happened at their previous pharmacy that they weren't happy about. Maybe, a promise didn't get upheld, or, their prescription was taking too long or something. And, or they just, don't get a timely response to some of the questions that they have. And so when they come in and we're just all like, "Hey, welcome in," like we're super happy to see them. We're really excited that they are even considering the prospect of like joining our PHARMaly. I think that kind of like throws them off in a good way. They're like, "Oh wow, like this is awesome." And we give them all these resources like, "Hey, like we have, this app, and we have, these like vaccines that we offer, and we go on and on and on." And they're like, "Yeah, like I'm going to transfer here. I'm going to transfer my whole family here." And I think that's great. And then when they do actually get their stuff to us, it's a great opportunity for us to kind of look at, what medical conditions they have, where we can help, where we can offer over the counter medications or supplements or all of the things. And I just think if I were to describe it in 3 words, it would be it's a clean slate and it's great.
That's really a beautiful sentiment. And Kenny, I'll ask some additional questions as it relates to this. And
Yeah.
with your pharmacy, with the pharmacy location, um, Are you in an area that is, more rural? Is this an area where, do patients have ready access to other healthcare providers and, or is it something that's leaning more towards a medically underserved, community? Like where is your pharmacy? Where is your community sort of on that spectrum?
It is definitely a more rural setting.
Gotcha. So when they're coming and seeing, the pharmacy staff, this may be the only medical provider that they are seeing for, perhaps weeks or months, and that it may be the only place where they may be able to get those immunizations, especially without, an appointment or some of the things like that. Do you think, and you've had different experience in pharmacy as, as this part goes, part of the reason from Washington state and from other states that they've been so expansive with different pharmacy services or being able to provide different services has been more rural settings, more rural areas. From your experience, do you find that this lends itself to kind of any differences in what a patient expects from a pharmacy, or is it really kind of, hey, every patient that comes in is, as you stated, are they a clean slate where they don't really know what to expect from their pharmacy and they're really appreciative of any service that they're providing?
Yeah, I think we do try to treat every, patient that comes in as that clean slate. But what we're finding when we do that, because I think that, we kind of set expectations that, they can expect a little bit more from their pharmacy. They can expect better service. They can expect, that we'll be more thorough with our responses and kind of look into things more for them. Like I had, a very like interesting article that I read about mustard seed for a patient. Like I went home and I got down and into it, and I called him back, and I just went into mustard seed, and it was just a very unique experience. But I think that build rapport with the patient, and that's not something that they expect. So it's just about kind of showing them how awesome we can be, and then also, you know, upholding promises and serving patients in that way.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, Kennedy, I'm going to get us closer to the end of our recording and our podcast for today. But one item I'd like to have you answer, respond to. I mean, for the pharmacy, where you are and you're new into your pharmacy career, and this is a new pharmacy that you're where you are working, where you are staffing. Um, where what do you see as future, or what excites you about the future for pharmacy practice? What excites you about what you're able to do, working with your patients in your community going forward?
What I'm really excited about for the future is I see community pharmacy services growing like exponentially. I see us being a place that patients can go for, a lot of different services, and I'm excited to see pharmacy and community pharmacy embrace that. Um, I really enjoy educating our patients, and I just see with clinical services growing, that's just going to continue to be a very um, integral part of what we do every day.
It's a great sentiment. And Kennedy, if I can summarize perhaps those thoughts or put it into some other words, a phrase that I've heard before, it's for pharmacy, having the courage to change. And moving forward, it's a profession that we have to change. Our patients, their behaviors, their expectations for healthcare are changing, but so is the healthcare world around us. So pharmacy, its strength and its ability is going to be that willingness to embrace change, provide the new services, and meet our patients where they want to be met. All right. Well, Kennedy, we're going to wrap up for today's show. I was really excited. And this is a topic where, as we were plotting out our episodes for the Quality Corner Show, we spend time talking about medications. We spend time talking about disease states. We spend time talking about the quality improvement process. But we don't often talk about the pharmacist, that pharmacy experience, and being in the community, which is a hallmark of the profession. So I greatly appreciate you coming on the show today to talk to us just about, hey, what is that experience like? What is that fire that ignites your passion for pharmacy and serving the patients in our community? So thank you for joining us today. As we close out here, one, if folks have questions or want to hear about your pharmacy, is there a way that they can contact you? Are you on LinkedIn? And then two, is there any message that you would just like to share, perhaps inspirational words for the fellow members of your pharmacy team in particular, but also the pharmacy profession?
Absolutely. So if people want to contact me, I'm on LinkedIn. You can also email me. I can give Nick my email, and maybe he can put it in the description. And some closing words would just be, have the courage to change. Have the courage to embrace those new parts of pharmacy that are coming your way. Try to learn something new every single day and be excited to share that with your patients and also with your pharmacy team. You're a mentor, not just, to your team and your staff, but you're a mentor to your patients and your community. And just don't forget that you could really change somebody's life. So.
Fantastic. Well, Kennedy, thanks again for the time here. And yes, we'll be sure and we can put your information in the show notes here for folks so if they want to reach out and if they've got any questions for you about, hey, what is it like at a new community pharmacy and how do you grow that experience? But for our listening audience, that means we have now wrapped up today's episode. So we thank you for joining us. We hope you listen to our next episode of the Quality Corner Show. And before we go, we have one final message from the PQS team.
The Pharmacy Quality Solutions Quality Corner Show has a request for you. Our goal is to spread the word about how quality measurement can help improve health outcomes, and we need your help in sharing this podcast to friends and colleagues in the healthcare industry. We also want you to provide feedback, ask us questions, and suggest health topics you'd like to see covered. If you are a health expert and you want to contribute to the show or even talk on the show, please contact us. You can email info@pharmacyquality.com. Let us know what is on your mind, what we can address, so that you are fully informed. We want you to be able to provide the best care for your patients and members, and we wish all of you listeners out there well.